I would like to thank all the people who were mentioned by Daniel. This was really a team effort, and I'm also extremely grateful to the translators like Andrea and the authors like Eduardo. As when you see the volume, you will see that we covered generally all the demographic areas of Latin America, and that was done on purpose. Because about, let's see, it was 91, 92, I published with a colleague, Norma Clan, who is from Mexico, but just retired from the University of California, Santa Cruz. We published 2 volumes of essays by novelists. And the volumes are called, each has about 800 pages. It's called Los Novelistas como Críticos, novelists as critics. It was something that was done once. The Fondo de Cultura, because of rights, didn't have enough funds to do a 3rd volume, which is what I wanted to do. And I had been contributing with Dan to review, with book reviews and so on. I looked at previous volumes, and there were 2, number 100 and number 101. That were devoted to the essay. And I put that within quotations because of something I'm going to say. And I thought, well, that would be a great idea to have another volume, a follow-up volume to those 2. Now, I had worked at review when I was a grad student, 2 subway stops away from here. And at that time, what you consider an essay was very conventional. And also there were some of the stars and so on of the time, the boom writers, and some were younger. And in the Novelistas como Críticos, the youngest authors that we published, this is in 91, 92, were born in 1947. So there was this huge gap of people who had been born after that and who were publishing. So I thought, well, how about doing, in Latin America, as many of you know, there were 2 movements in around 96. One was the Mexican El Pop, which was predominantly, almost exclusively, it was exclusively male. And there was the Macondo anthology, which is also all men. Obviously, there was a gender imbalance. I can tell you very boldly that I don't judge literary work by whether it's a man or a woman and so on, but by the quality. But I thought, well, maybe that's a good break-off point that we should publish novelists who have written a lot of essays and who kind of came of age around right after 96 when they started publishing and so on. So I made up a list and I sent it to Dan, and obviously there were more authors, but there was a problem. For example, authors like César Aira, the Argentine, and Roberto Bolaño, they've been worked and translated to death. Everything has been translated. So I wanted to open it up to other people who were not that widely known or who had published with small independent presses. Another criterion was that they had to have had at least 1 book of essays published. So we're very fortunate that we started to write to people, and these 2 persons were very, very kind, translators. All the responses were positive. But obviously, we couldn't do an issue that was 2 times the size of this. It was just impossible to do. Frankly, we contacted some people, they never wrote back, men and women. Others had demands that we could not meet. So I'm very happy that we were able to do this. Now, as I was saying before, and I'm sorry, I need my glasses. I don't want to repeat myself, but one of the criteria, or some of the criteria that we had used for Los Novelistas como Críticos was that the novelists write about the novel as a genre, that they will write about other novelists or about their own novels, or what is called still the Western tradition. Because I'm from Ecuador, I don't know any, I'm sorry, I don't know any indigenous languages, and that is the case with many of us who look like me. and in any case, we wanted to have an overview of the different areas and so on. And so that was very difficult to do, because for example, when we got to Central America, where we were going to choose. I mean, it was very difficult. With Mexico, it was very easy because there's an overabundance almost of writers. And the same with Argentina and with Colombia. But countries like mine, like Ecuador or Peru, even though Peru at this point has a huge number of mainly women who write journalism and who publish books of journalism, as we know them as crónicas, it was hard to access them because they're all over. They live not in Peru, in other places. For example, you will notice that there isn't anyone from Panama. There isn't anyone from Paraguay. There isn't anyone from Bolivia. But believe me, Dan and I try to contact as many people as we could, not only writers, but also academics and newspapers and so on, but this is the result, and I'm extremely happy with it. Now, the notion of nonfiction, well, in 1997, someone came up with the term creative nonfiction, which is perfect for what we have here, a fellow named Gutkin. And I thought, well, the essay, as we know it, it's something that's very free in form. It's very disobedient. You know, you find a person writing about this bottle, and then she or he switches to the microphone, and so on and so on. So that is considered creative nonfiction. And then I realized that a lot of the people that we had invited did this kind of writing. Moreover, as you will see once you read the issue, for whatever reason, it just turned out that way. We had a Mexican author, Jazmina Barrera, writing about Jane Austen. We had Mariana Enriquez writing about Cormac McCarthy. We had Julián Herbert, who's from Mexico, writing about Lowry, and so on. And Juan Gabriel Vásquez, who's very well known, writing about Melville. And then we had Eduardo, whom I have admired for years and years, and this is the first time I meet him. And to me, Eduardo is the most representative of this type of writing. And I dared to tell him a little while ago, so well, what you have is a poetics of hybridity. As you know, hybrid text is a very fashionable term, but it's exactly the kind of thing that you see. Eduardo was saying, well, there's the paper, and whatever you put on it, that's a text. Which, yes, that's what it is. But the other issue is that, other criteria are that in a piece of writing, you can combine what's known as an essay, you know, that you develop slowly to get to the end, or you can put fiction, and this is something that Borges did, actually. Borges will write a story in which he will say, I was telling Bioy Casares, his very good friend, and he's a real person. So he said, I was telling Bioy Casares that I read this book, and they were books that were made up. By the same token, he will write essays that sounded like fiction. And we know how important Borges is. Well, our fellows here and our women have gone beyond that, because they, not only have they gone into art criticism at times, and there's a long line for you mentioned Gonzalez, and there's a bunch of younger writers or more recent writers who, like Eduardo, have taken art as a topic, and they write about that, not only in essays but also in the novels. I can think of a woman, Maria Gainza, who's become well known, and that was another criterion also, that we wanted authors who had also been published in English. We call it an imperialist language, whatever, but the thing is that it's a fact that we're here, and we needed people who had some exposure, people had some knowledge about them. And so that's what we did, and I think it came out fantastic. And the last thing I want to mention before Eduardo and Andrea speak is the cover. The cover was chosen on purpose. This is by a Dominican writer. Her ethnicity is, she's a mulatto. Her name is Emma Luna. And she happens to be, I live in California. She's a neighbor of mine. And I asked her, I said, would you mind if we use this as a cover? And I explained to her that what it was going to be like, the contributions were from all over. And then she said, well, yeah, sure, go ahead and use it. But this is the thing. Emma is from the Caribbean, but she said, oh, I'm sorry. Emma is from the Caribbean, but she said, no, I really don't want to be associated with exoticism. As many of you know, if you buy paperbacks of Latin American novels, many of them have over-sexualized representations of women. And, you know, you're always going to have a palm tree and so on. But there are many writers in the Caribbean who just don't do that. And so what Emma does, and inside this description, I don't know it by heart, but if you will allow me, I'll read it. Because it's a mixed media, and this painting it's called El Nido, the nest. And what she does is she moved to the United States many years ago, lived in Minnesota, then in Brazil, and now she lives in California. And she not only paints, but she also does ceramic works. This woman is fantastic. And what she does is she will take a photograph from her family in general, all photographs, and do the mixed media. And the mixed media, what she understands by that, and I'm sorry to read this here, is oil painting, ink onto plate, texturing cheesecloth, woodcuts, and etchings. And so that's Emma's work. And now, let's see. I talked about the practical matters in the selection process, and that there aren't any endless funds and to invite more people, and as I said, to do a volume twice the size. But again, I am personally very happy and grateful to Dan and to Review for allowing me to set up this number. And the title is Calculated Contemporary Latin American Nonfiction, because that's actually what it is. And with that, I thank you, and I'll turn it over to Eduardo.